let's talk about what happened at this Senate hearing, going through sort of the after action report with Secret Service. There's a new Secret Service director. There's an acting director. His name is Ronald Rowe. And there seems to be a lot of controversy surrounding him, Ross, because a story came out in Politico based upon anonymous sourcing saying that Rowe was responsible, allegedly, for the Trump campaign being denied additional resources that they requested. What do you think about that initially? It's not a good start for an acting director.
It's not, and we talked about this last week, that when Trump gets back into office, God willing, you can't just chop the head off of these bureaucracies. You got to go 2, 3, 4, 5 levels deep.
Cut off one head, 2 more shall take its place.
Because, we got rid of the other director who was a disaster, definitely a DEI hire, but this guy might have been in on it. And by in on it, I'm not going conspiracy theory. I'm just saying in on it, lending to the lax protocols that were there by denying extra protection. Right?
In other words, he's part of the culture of lax activity, lax behavior that seemed to infest Secret Service here.
Yes, or misplaced priorities, which is the problem with almost every institution in our government now, right? When the director's chief priority was to get 30% of her force to be female, did this guy voice an opinion on that, or did he just fall in line, right? 2 or 3 levels down, probably just fell in line. Our military is infested. The Secret Service, we find out, as we knew the FBI was. The CIA clearly is, right? Like, we're in a mess.
An alphabet soup of government agencies.
Let's get into some of the clips, though, because I think that the senators addressed this somewhat. I got 2 prepared. We're going to look at Josh Hawley's, you want to call it interrogation, questioning, examination of the acting Secret Service director. Let's start with this.
As the law enforcement who are in those windows, as they look left, they should be able to see the shooter clearly there on the AGR second floor roof. My question is, why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper on that roof?
So just to give context for what we're watching here, the acting Secret Service director, Rowe, brought with him some demonstrables, some boards, some photos, showing where people should have been positioned, basically passing the buck to local law enforcement for not being in a post that they were supposedly assigned to in the second floor window that would have looked out onto the AGR building's roof where the shooter was. So that's what Hawley's questioning about right now. Let's get back to it.
So, Senator, when we post up, our methodology is to look at things that can see in on our protectees, so that they can provide that coverage.
But why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper there with clear line of sight? That roof has a clear line of sight to the former president. Why didn't you put a Secret Service counter sniper there?
The Secret Service's counter sniper role is to neutralize those threats that are looking in on us from where the protectee is, not necessarily
you think maybe position. You might want to revise that protocol in light of what happened here?
Guys' plans suck.
Let's talk about this for a second, Ross. Basically, from what I'm understanding, just a layman not experienced in this sort of security work, is that it's Secret Service protocol to create a perimeter, to have their assets within that perimeter, looking out to the outside of the perimeter for threats to the protected party. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if there wasn't a single Secret Service agent on the ground anywhere there. They are the lead agency, right? So you can't pass the buck to a subordinate agency or unit. The Secret Service is in charge of that entire operation, right? They might have given posts to other departments, but at the end of the day, without oversight, or maybe they were providing oversight to these other departments, why didn't they address it in real time when there was a lapse in a protocol potentially, right? The buck has to stop with them.
And apparently there was some lapses in protocol as well. There was connectivity issues with local Wi-Fi in order to get a drone up, yet the shooter was able to get his drone operational. Secret Service apparently was offered a drone from local police that they refused to accept. There wasn't a dedicated Wi-Fi source for their usage. there were a lot of lapses in planning here. I even think there's a report saying that Secret Service didn't go through a walkthrough with local law enforcement that morning as well. So it's more than just the failure in stopping proceedings and delaying them until the threat was neutralized or anything like that. There seems to be a lot of mess-ups, a cascade of failures here. Let's get back to what Hawley's saying.
They were protecting the principal, and I think
the principal got shot.
Understand that, sir.
So do you think you might want to revise the protocol? Let me ask you this. Who was the lead site agent who made the decision to leave the AGR building completely outside of the security perimeter? Who was that?
Senator, I cannot give you that name. This person is operational. They're still doing investigations. They're still doing protective visits.
Have they been relieved of duty?
Senator, they have not been relieved of duty.
I know their name, by the way. Why have they not been relieved of duty?
Now, see, again, as a layperson, that's an interesting question to me. This was a major screw-up. Why is the person, the agent in charge, or whoever it may be, not stuck behind a desk, take away their gun, take away their badge, and get this investigation really moving? Why is he still on the job?
Yeah, you're spot on, Gene. So, first of all those things you rattled off before we watched this clip about all the lapses in protocol, if you want to call them that, do any of those even make sense? Like, how did they not have Wi-Fi or a drone? Like, a lot of this stuff doesn't even make sense, right? But put that aside for a second. Where Josh Hawley's going and what you just opined on makes a lot more sense. In a military unit, the commander of that unit, 99 out of 100 times, gets relieved of command if there is a major incident involving training that should have been done or was not done to standard, a lack of discipline, or a toxic culture or climate within the organization. All those boxes are checked here, and not one person has been relieved of their responsibilities or their duty yet. That doesn't make any sense. They do that in the military even while there is an active investigation, because you can't take a chance of another person dying or getting hurt, right? And the Secret Service is completely dropping the ball on this.
Well, apparently it's just the upper echelon of the Secret Service. I want to share this with everyone right now. This is an article from Newsweek. Secret Service sniper demands 5 people be fired for Trump shooting, according to a report.
Where's your accountability?
A Secret Service counter sniper is demanding that 5 high-level supervisors be fired in the wake of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, warning that another attempt could come before November's election, he says in a leaked email. This agency needs to change, if not now, when, the counter sniper wrote to the agency's uniform division, according to an email obtained by Real Clear Politics' White House and national political correspondent Susan Crabtree. The next assassination attempt in 30 days, because we all should expect another attempt to happen before November. He goes on to say failure is not an option, and on 7/13, we failed, not because of commitment or sense of dedication, but because our supervisors, aka leadership, knew better and thought our concerns were less than important.
The whole place stunk from the top down.
Yeah, and then that email was immediately scrubbed from the Secret Service servers, and I'm pretty sure they're going to figure out who that guy is, and he's going to face some kind of disciplinary action, right, for telling the truth. He's right. 5 supervisors or management level people, absolutely. Whoever was in charge of that specific site and whoever approved the plan. The first director that resigned couldn't even confirm at what level of the food chain that the plan gets approved, right?
And not only that, she didn't visit the site herself in the days after.
No Wi-Fi coverage, no drone. We're going to leave a roof uncovered. We're going to create a perimeter that's less than 150 yards from the nearest structure. Like, none of that makes sense. Who approved that?
What about let's throw another failure in this. Separate radio comm systems between Secret Service and local law enforcement. They weren't on the same comms. There was an encrypted comm service for Secret Service, and there was a different communication service to the point where snipers were texting each other. Local law enforcement were texting their own people, telling whoever was in the main comm center, tell Secret Service A, B, C, D, we see this person. We see them with a rangefinder, et cetera, et cetera. And it had to be manually told to the person in the comm center, and then that comm center person in Secret Service would have to disseminate information. We're not even sure that happened.
I was just going to say, that's the story. That's the narrative being told to us. I don't know if any of that is true or happened, right? We haven't heard from anyone. Why don't we hear from someone on the ground there? They always cite ongoing investigations. This seems like an open and shut case. There's supposedly one shooter, a few rounds. They recovered the body, the weapon, the rounds. Whatever happened to those explosives that they found in this vehicle? We still don't know what type. How did we get a hold of them? Who taught them how to make them? Why can't we? Where are the press conferences? Now we're talking about like Trump at a National Association of Black Journalists thing. The script has completely been flipped, right? Why are they just whitewashing this? You didn't even mention like the Google searches and everything that are showing assassination attempt of Harry Truman. Who even knew that existed?
Right. I mean,
the main one that comes up.
And Elon Musk has been talking about that on X as well, that there's something in the algorithms with Google or whatever. I don't know anything about it. All I know is what I see, and I see that when you put in these searches, different information comes up. But what you were talking about, Ross, is what Hawley and later Ted Cruz will show as well we're talking about. Let's get back to Hawley.
We're still cooperating, not only being interviewed by the FBI, but also by our Office of Professional Responsibility. And we will let the facts of the mission assurance and any further investigations play out.
Isn't the fact that a former president was shot, that a good American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded, isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out.
How much more proof do you need?
So who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment?
Just get rid of them, stupid.
So yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here. And you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed
As the
spectacularly.
person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we.
So nobody has been relieved of duty at this point because there's an ongoing investigation, though it's clear that there's been a failure. They're trying to figure out what exactly the failure is. I don't get this. What would be the harm of taking these people out of the field? Does that mean that there's nobody behind them to replace them in the field? Could that be a reason, Ross? What do you think about that idea, that notion?
Is that possible? Maybe. But at the end of the day, like I said, there's someone in charge of that event, right? From the Secret Service. There was definitely an operations plan that was created and signed off by someone that was managing that event and likely approved by the person above them. So like that opens up a whole bunch of questions because this doesn't take weeks to figure out. This guy can get that plan, take a look at it, and figure out, was there interoperability issues noted in that plan, and what was the mitigating, circumstance behind that? How can they mitigate that problem?
And actually, Ross, a member of the chat is likening this to another situation where we still have no answers. Whatever happened to that whole Vegas shooting a couple of years back? We never found out any key information on that. Are we looking at a pattern in practice of a cover-up? Or is this malfeasance or just, I don't know, just being irresponsible? Do you think that there's purpose behind the lack of information and the deflection that you're seeing from acting director Rowe?
I don't know about a lack of purpose, but I can tell you this. Who was the lead agency in the Vegas shooting investigation? The FBI. Who was the lead in this one? The FBI. right? The Secret Service is doing an internal review of their own failures. Again, should not take this long. It's pretty clear cut. It's like either things were in that plan or they weren't, and someone signed off on that plan, right? So this is a quick one, open shut.
Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. There's a whole lot more to this whole Josh Hawley interrogation, but I do want to go forward to what Ted Cruz talked about. You're going to see some fireworks here in this clip.
Statement from your spokesperson that says there's an untrue assertion that a member of the former president's team requested additional security resources and that those were rebuffed. This is absolutely false. In fact, we added protective resources and technology and capabilities as part of the increased campaign travel tempo. Was this tweet accurate?
With respect to Butler, Pennsylvania, it is accurate, sir.
That was pretty shady.
Okay. This is where everybody's going to get a lesson in hiding the ball. Notice the answer from Rowe, and Ross, I know, picked up on this right away. The answer was conditioned upon one event for one day, the event in Butler, Pennsylvania. That doesn't mean that the Trump detail wasn't denied resources prior to that. Remember, Donald Trump has had Secret Service around him since 2021 when he's been out of office. So there clearly were other requests for support or additional assets that were denied, given that answer. Am I right in that characterization, pal? What do you think?
Yeah, and even if we take him at his word, right, that what he just said was true, we know for a fact right now that prior to the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt, that there was credible intelligence that Iran put out a hit on Donald Trump. So if this was the upgraded security package, what the hell did he have before that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania? If this was the upgraded, we got to really dot our I's and cross our T's security package, what the hell did he have before? Like, it's very hard to take him at face value because it doesn't pass the sniff test at all.
It is accurate that the Trump team had not asked for additional security and had not been rebuffed.
If you're talking about Butler, Pennsylvania, all assets requested were approved. If you're talking about the media reporting of assets requested, there were times when assets were unavailable and not able to be filled, and those gaps were staffed with state and local law enforcement tactical assets.
So I'm reading from the Washington Post, July 20th, 2024. Secret Service said to have denied requests for more security at Trump events. The opening paragraph, top officials of the U.S. Secret Service repeatedly denied requests for additional resources and personnel sought by Donald Trump's security detail in the 2 years leading up to his attempted assassination, according to 4 people familiar with the requests. Is that right, that repeatedly the Trump detail asked for more resources and repeatedly Secret Service leadership turned that down?
That is not accurate, Senator. Assets are requested. There's a process that is made. And
how many requests did the Trump team or the Trump detail ask for?
I can get you that number in a queue.
You don't know now.
So I can speak to the ones that reported in the Washington Post, and we can go through them if you like.
But you don't know how many requests there were.
Well, we're waiting.
In general, how many requests since 2021 that the former Trump detail has made a request for assets?
You've had 2 weeks. You had a spokesperson put something out that is false on its face. By the way, did you approve this statement when it went out?
I don't know if I did or didn't, Senator.
Has this spokesperson, is he still employed? Does he still have a job?
He is still employed, Senator.
So he lied on behalf of the Secret Service. He still has a job. Did your predecessor, the former director, did she approve this statement?
Senator, our comms team, they send out statements, they do deconflict them, and they put them out.
Comms team just puts shit out anytime they want to.
Sure. Bro, he was about to say that. He was like, yeah, they say what they say. What are we going to do?
It's the comms team. Who listens to them anyway? It's not like they know anything. Are you kidding me with this bullshit? Come on.
No. Notice the other thing, Gene. He didn't go into it. He was about to. He said, there's a process to request additional assets, right? And he didn't really go into that. And he just said, we backfill with state and local law enforcement and other department's assets, right? But what does a process in government speak actually mean? That means lots of paperwork, lots of time, lots of levels of approval, and it's just an all-around pain in the ass, right? So some of the stuff that I heard online was that after you request something so many times and it gets denied, you just stop requesting it, right? So maybe Butler, Pennsylvania, they didn't request anything else. I think of it like in New York City, a place where I used to live. How many times would you request a concealed weapon permit from the NYPD? It's cumbersome, it's a long process, and you're going to get denied. So anyone who's been through it and gotten denied once or twice, you're not going to keep doing it, right? So after the 10th time, if you finally get shot in the street, the NYPD will be like, well, you know, he didn't really apply for a weapon permit in the last couple of months. Yeah, but what about all the other times that we wasted time and effort asking for these things and they denied it, right?
Absolutely, yes. And when you talk about bureaucracy, I'm sure Homeland Security was involved in this. I think it goes all the way up to Mayorkas's office. At least when it came to the RFK requests for Secret Service, it went to him. But yes, it's a beautiful menagerie of paperwork. But the one thing about bureaucracy is because it demands paperwork, there should be a paper trail that this acting director should have been able to study to know how many requests were made for additional assets and resources. The fact that he's doing it on both ends, he's saying, well, I don't know for sure, but it goes through a process. You got to put those two hands together, pal, and you got to be able to look and see how many requests were made, give some answers to the American people. Let's keep going.
Did she approve this statement?
I don't know if she did or did not. Senator.
And you don't know if you did either?
I don't recall approving it, Senator.
Ridiculous.
Will you commit to provide this committee in writing every written request for additional resources from the Trump campaign or the Trump detail and every response from Secret Service?
Senator, I will commit to providing responses and getting you the information that you are seeking.
Well, good.
May I ask you something? And who makes the decision to deny those requests? Did you make that decision?
Which requests? Are you talking about the ones that were in the Washington Post?
Yes.
So the process, sir, is that a detail will make a request for either staffing, technical assets, that is handled between the field office and the detail. It goes up to a logistics office between our
Okay, so there's a bureaucracy. Is there a decision maker?
It's not a bureaucracy, Senator.
Give me the
it's a
person
process.
that's a
Okay, please spare me the bullshit.
There's not a bureaucracy. There's a process. That is like just about the definition of a bureaucracy, right? You don't pick up the phone. Yes. Like you said, there's lots of paperwork and hoops to jump through to get what you need. And it goes back to an earlier point that I made. This stuff is all easily found, right? Like you said, they can find this stuff out. My real question for this, after hearing this and thinking about it, Gene, was if you were going to get called before a congressional committee on any topic, especially a topic as big as this, would you not have gotten some of this information beforehand? It's rhetorical, right? Because of course you would have. So that leads us to either the former director and this acting director do know the answers to these questions, or they purposefully did not seek out this information prior to speaking to Congress, right? Both those are unacceptable, but one of those are true.
It has to be true. Those are the only alternatives you had. Either you stuck your head in the sand and didn't want to find out because you wanted to have plausible deniability as you are under oath before a Senate hearing, or you go in and you find out the ugly truth and you have to report on it.
And those are your only two options. It's very binary here.
Yes.
There's no other option.
The acting director is trying to act a little bit pregnant in this testimony. That's what it is. And it's just impossible to do.
Senator, it's a conversation. It's not just an absolute yay or nay.
So let me tell you what I believe. I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests. And I think the Biden administration has been suffused with partisan politics. Did the same person who denied the request for additional security to President Trump also repeatedly deny the request for security to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was murdered by an assassin and whose uncle was murdered by an assassin? Did the same person make that decision?
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what? Leadership appointed by the president is political. I have a simple question, yes or no. Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question.
Yes, it is.
There is a process for a candidate nominee to receive protection.
Does the buck stop anywhere? Does the buck stop anywhere?
Bipartisan process that the Hill
It's a bicameral, bipartisan process. What camera?
For a candidate,
you are not a Congress. You don't have a camera.
Mr. Kennedy submitted a request that was referred over to the CPAC.
Why can't I get a fucking straight answer from you people?
It goes on from there.
First of all, don't blame CPAC. CPAC had nothing to do with this.
CPAC had nothing to do with this. Shout out to all our friends from CPAC. We know you're blameless, but we know who's not blameless. That's the whatever the C-suite is, the high executive offices of the Secret Service. They're playing hide the ball. No one's gotten fired. No one's gotten suspended. No one's been taken out of the field. No one's responsible for anything. We're not identifying anyone. And you have to understand that this is all a process and a conversation, but not bureaucracy.
Yeah. And Gene, I'm no fan of RFK Jr., right? And before the Trump attempted assassination, to me, it's a no-brainer that you give that man a detail, right? Like, what justification could there possibly be? Maybe he doesn't get helicopters and drones, but a personal protective detail, some guys to walk with him with guns, like, to me, that's a no-brainer, right? He has 2 family members killed in politics, assassinated. No-brainer. And they're saying this wasn't political decisions?
If you like that clip from our new show, Behind Enemy Lines, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows, and tune in live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.